In this video, we're going to talk about the order to cash process that we've been discussing in class. The order to cash process is the process of selling things to customers. So we're going to talk through a couple of examples and all of the events that happen in this process, just as a review. So first of all, I wanted to talk to you about this selling things event or this order to cash process. In this class, we're talking about a typical order to cash process. This isn't to say that every business that you come in contact with or every business that you go to work for when you leave UT operates under these same events or that they have all of these events. So these are just the typical ones that you'll run into that help you as you go out to try to understand what is happening in your business. So if you go out or you see an example of an order to cash process, and let's say, for example, they don't prepare goods and services for delivery. They don't take the goods and pack them inside a box. That's okay. But we're breaking this down in such a way that you can understand the overall selling things process for most companies. So let's get started with the first event in order to cash. The first event in order to cash process is to market goods and services. Companies market goods and services in a variety of ways. They do online advertising, they can do Facebook ads, they can do billboards, they can do direct mail, they do marketing in all kinds of ways. They can even do it just simply by word of mouth. If you think about it, all businesses are going to market their goods and services in some way, because if they don't, how is a customer going to know that they have something for them to buy? So this process happens sometimes in a way that we don't see it, but happens on the front end of all order to cash processes. After we market to our customers, ideally, customers will come to us or we will seek them out. Either way, we will do what's called negotiate a sales order. The reason that we talk about this as a negotiate sales order isn't because we're necessarily bartering on the price, but within this step of negotiating a sales order with a customer, there are several things that happen. In this picture, there's a cashier, just like at a grocery store or at Walmart, that is negotiating the sales order with the customer. We've talked about before that retail scenarios often combine many of these steps, but this is just so you have a concrete example in your mind of what negotiating a sales order is. Another example is, let's say that you want to buy a new iPhone and you have to call Verizon to do that. You call Verizon and you say, my phone's broken, I need a new one. The first thing the Verizon people are going to say to you is, sure, can I get your name, so that they can associate it with your account, right? That's the beginning of a negotiate sales order. I wanted to point out that something different happens in a lot of businesses based on whether or not you're a new customer within this negotiate sales order event. So if a customer were to call, like you were calling to order this iPhone, right? So if I call and I say, my name is Sally Smith, and Sally Smith is not a customer of US Cellular, Verizon, or whoever I'm calling, a couple things are going to happen. US Cellular is going to check to make sure that I can pay for this inventory. So does the company think the customer will pay? So they're going to check the credit of a customer. They're also going to make sure that they have the inventory that I want before we complete this sale. So this is just an example of the steps that fall inside of negotiate sales order and the reason that we use that word. Again, it's not because we're arguing over the price of something like you think of a negotiate when you're going to negotiate your salary and you would like to get paid more than your employer wants to pay you. It's not that kinds of negotiation. But negotiate here means that there are several steps involved in this one event. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Let's go to an Amazon example for a second. So let's say that you want to buy these phones or this chocolate from Amazon. So you click on the buttons and you negotiate the order with Amazon. You do that by clicking on the page and saying, I want to buy this chocolate or I want to buy this phone. Well, then, after you negotiate the sales order and Amazon says, okay, we have this, we're going to sell it to you, what happens is they select and inspect the goods. So that's one event, select and inspect. Which means they go to their warehouse, they pull your phone off the shelf, they say, this is the phone that Sally Smith wants, and so this is what I need to pull off of this shelf. They inspect it, they make sure it's not damaged, then they go and they find the chocolate that you want, so dark chocolate, white chocolate, milk chocolate, whatever it is that you want, they go and they make sure that they have what you've ordered and they inspect it for damage. So this is the select and inspect part where they're physically in the warehouse pulling things off the shelf, making sure they're not damaged so that they can send them to you. The prepare for delivery step is a little different, but often happens reasonably close or at the same time. So think of it this way. If Amazon goes out to their warehouse and they pick out this phone for you, and we talked about they make sure that it isn't damaged in the select and inspect, but then they have to pack it in this box because they can't just mail you the phone, right? So they have to prepare it for delivery. So it gets in this box and it'll get an address and all that stuff on it too. But think about pick and pack as pulling things off the shelf in a warehouse. Think about pick. So select and inspect is pulling things off the shelves in a warehouse, and prepare for delivery as pack, and when they're actually physically putting it in a box to send to you. So after they pick it off the shelves or select and inspect it from the warehouse, and they pack it or they prepare it for delivery, they deliver them to your house, right? So this is a picture of a FedEx man delivering a box. But let's go back to our Amazon example where we're buying a phone. Our phone is in that box, and so they've delivered the goods to their customer, to Sally Smith. I want to point out that this is the point of sale. The sale doesn't happen back when we're negotiating the sales order. The sale doesn't happen when we pack it in the box. The sale doesn't happen later when we get paid. The sale happens here. So think about for a minute if you've ever ordered anything from Amazon and it hasn't been delivered to your house. So Amazon has this whole process that you go through to say, I didn't get my stuff. And if you didn't get your stuff, Amazon is going to issue a refund because they have no sale without the stuff being delivered to you. So just remember, the sale actually occurs in the transfer of this box or these goods. Works the same way for services, but it's a little harder to wrap your head around, right? But if somebody comes and mows your lawn, once they've mowed your lawn, you owe them money, right? So that's the point of sale. So just want to point out, this is the point of sale. Try not to get confused with either paying for or ordering. So after we deliver goods to the customer, they are then obligated to pay us because we have made this sale. So the next step in order to cash is receive payment from customers. So I have pictures of cash here and a picture of a check. There are many other ways to pay. As you all know, we could pay through PayPal or some electronic system. But ultimately, we're going to receive payment because we've completed our legal obligation by delivering the goods. So remember, we're getting paid because we delivered the goods, not necessarily because we had an order. And then the last step in the order to cash process is negotiate terms and accept returns. So if my box with my phone in it comes from Amazon and it won't turn on, or the battery doesn't work right, or the screen is cracked, or any number of things, Amazon will accept my return. They go through a process where they send me a shipment label back and all this stuff. So that's negotiating terms of the return process. But that is a step. Businesses hope to not have much of this, so you won't see it in every business scenario, but it is something that has to happen in this order to cash process. I hope this review has been helpful. Please see the other videos on Procure to Pay and other concepts that you're learning for this course.